All right, let's finish this up. So again, right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8/10 of our assignment completed. All right, really, just so you know, this assignment, the next assignment that you have will have 5 parts to it, and each part's worth 100 points. So this is 100 of the points. All right. So as we go on, the next thing that we want to do, if we take a look in here, all that's left is our sign-up section. That's it. And that sign-up section, if you remember, if you look up on the screen here, that's this. So it's going to be a text box basically with enter your email, and it's also going to be, this is actually a button, and notice that we've got it set up so when we put our mouse over it, it changes color. And also, you may or may not notice that button has the opacity set. It's set to 50%, so it's partially transparent. So you get a chance to see what some of that stuff looks like. All right, now, if you look up on the screen, I don't want to copy the stuff from what I just did because there's a lot of junk there that I don't need. So I'm just going to jump back up to that countdown section, and I'm going to grab all of the divs that are inside of that counter, you know, all the divs that are in there. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard, and then I'm going to paste it in. And I don't want that div that says counter. So right now, if you haven't done so, please do that for your sign up. I'll give you a second to do that. Literally, we should be done no later than 11. I'd like everybody's up and working by then, because then we're going to do something else. I'm going to give you the assignment, but before I do, we're going to do one more thing. I'm going to ask you to do something. All right? So there's not a lot that we have to do in here, but the way that we want to set this up is, believe it or not, even though it probably doesn't look like it, this is a form. It's been set up as a form. All right? So that's what we're going to do here, so we have a chance to work with Bootstrap forms. All right? So that's what we're going to do in here right now. And what we're going to do, and I'll just start typing it in, form class equal form dash inline role whoops, sorry about that. There we go. Role equal form. I'm going to hit enter. You don't have to, but I'm hitting enter so it all shows on the screen. The good news is there's really, after we get done with this, there's like 2 lines we have to type in, and we're done. And then we'll have to go to our CSS when we get done with that, and we will add some stuff to our CSS, but not a whole lot. All right. So what we want in here, as I mentioned to you previously, that right there is a text box. But remember, it's type email, right? In other words, if I put in here a bunch of garbage and I click find out more, I should get that error message. That's what we want to have happen, all right? So that's what we're going to make happen. So we're going to come in here, and under our form, we're going to put in, like I said, 2 lines. It'll look like 4 because I'm going to space it out. Input type equal email, class equal thank you. And I also put EAM. EMAIL, thank you. Remember, we can have a placeholder, and that's the little bit of text that will appear. We'll just say, enter your email here. something like that, and then end that. All right, and the other thing we're going to have in there is going to be a button, so I'm going to put all of it in. Let me double check. I'm going to save this. I just want to double check and make sure that it did set it up correctly. Again, it's over here, and that's all fine. So it's going to look like this. We'll style it in just a minute. But as far as I can tell, it looks okay. So you want to come in and add everything that's shown here in gray. I don't know if that makes it easier to see or harder to see, but that's everything. And the good news, like I said, that's it for the HTML. We're done. We just have to add our styling, and then we'll be finished. Well, the first thing I'd say would be, since we haven't styled it, go back and make sure that everything is typed in just like it is here. I mean, if you put the word button here instead of BTN, for example, something like that, or you put sign up and spell that wrong, it all wouldn't work. Here, after the word here. No, there. haven't styled that yet, so it's not going to look correct. All right, even if you haven't finished yet, if you'd all look up on the screen here for a second, I want to make sure you get this. First of all, oh, and there's a mistake I made. How about not just a beginning form tag, but how about an ending form tag? I didn't put the slash there, so if you didn't, put that in, please. All right, so a couple things about this. Just like we've done with regular HTML in Chapter 9, there's our form. All right, you've got to make sure, since that's a beginning, you need that end there. Classes, this says I'm going to do an inline form. What that means is everything is going to be on the same line. And that's just the one that we used. All right, I'm not sure what the role equal form does, but you need to put it in there. It's some bootstrap thing. You know what method equal post is, because we've talked about that before. And action equals, that just says keep it where we are, for lack of better words. All right? Then we've got what? Input type equal email. Again, since it's a control on a form, this is a bootstrap class, so we're applying to this form control and form control SM, which means we want a smaller one. All right? Because we don't have that much room on our screen anymore. Okay? The name of it will be email, and the placeholder will be enter your email here. Does all that make sense? What's different from this, from what we talked about in Chapter 9, is we're adding the bootstrap classes. All right? Then for button, again, type is submit, class equal. There are 1, 2, 3 classes here. BTN. Whenever you work with a button in Bootstrap, you have to add the class BTN. Okay? We also want to add, because it's a sign-up button, and we want to make sure that's small. Its name is submit. Its value will be send. Don't even worry about that. And the click for more. This stuff is just going to matter again once we write code in there. All right, and we end the button. But again, we haven't styled it yet, so we're going to do that now. One of the first things we'll do is we'll align it to the center, so it'll look a lot nicer. Then we'll start doing a few other things. Is there anything there that doesn't make sense? So let's say that one of you raises your hand and says, you know, I sort of get it, I sort of don't get it, but I'm having problems, you know. So again, as we talked about, if you go over to Get Bootstrap, not there. If you go out to getbootstrap.com, and I never remember exactly where it is, but let's look for components. No, that's glyphicons, we don't want that. There's button groups, I just want buttons. I don't remember if it's there. But when we start looking through this, somewhere in here they'll have, I don't know if it is, if I do want to look at button groups or what, but you start looking through it, all this stuff is explained. All the classes are, you know, what they are, etc. All right, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is enough work to go through the documentation and look at this stuff. But the idea is, it's hard. There are not many developers out there that are very bootstrap savvy. This is another way for you to get your niche in to a company. All right, by showing that you understand this stuff. All right, so let's add some CSS. So I'm going over to the style file here. And I'll start with, let's just do the sign up itself. And we'll say text align center. And color white. You've seen this before. Please look up on the screen here. We'll come right back to it, but notice it's now centered in the color. Everybody see that? So it's already looking a little easier to read by just putting in this. So that's what we've done so far. We've got about 5 or 6 more lines to type in, and we're done. All right. So next, we want to work with our class that's the button sign up. We want to make sure that when we hover over that, we want to change its color. Remember, hover means when we place the mouse on it. So we want to say well, we could say background color or just color. This would be a little different. We'll say background color. Again, just color would work also here. It doesn't matter. And we'll use an RGBA here. Remember, RGBA stands for red, green, blue, alpha. So 161 for our red, 186 for, whoops, not that, 186 for our green, 226 for our blue, and we'll have an alpha of 0.5. So make it half showing and half transparent. All right. We'll transition that in just like we did before, and we'll have it take 0.3 of a second and do another ease in, out, and we'll make sure that the color on this is white. All right, I'll come right back to it, but let's look, because it's much easier to see. Now look at what happens when I put my mouse over the button. See how it's changing? Somehow my color looks wrong, but can you see how that's changing? All right. Let's go back and make sure that what I gave you was correct and I didn't screw anything up. Button sign up. Oh, I'm sorry. Get rid of the hover on there. We're going to do a hover, but that's not it. So that's what we want for the sign up, is right there. I apologize. So if you've got the word hover there, please remove it. Background color, RGBA, 61, 186, 226, 0.5, transition, etc. Color white, that's good. Then we want to do the hover. These are the last 4 lines you have to type, and then you are finished. I'm just going to steal this and make a couple changes. And let me run it one more time and I'll come right back to it. See what's look on the screen here? See how it's going green when we highlight it? All right. So that should be right there. That's everything from sign up on. All the stuff that's in gray. Hopefully you can read all that okay. I'll give you a couple minutes because we're done then. We're done with this part of the assignment. All right. What I'm going to do while you're finishing this up is actually hand out the assignment itself. You are now intimately familiar with page 1, because that's what we just did. Is there anybody who's put everything in and for some reason things aren't working? All right. I am guessing, Amin, that with yours being bigger like that, it's something with your resolution on your monitor. We're gonna have to go over to control panel and look for resolution and see what it's set to, and then tone it down a little bit. Is there anything that we just went over? We did a lot, whether you realize it or not, in about 2.5 hours with breaks, but we did a lot. try turning it down to like, for now, just put it in the middle and just see what happens when you do that. Now it's gonna look a lot different. Okay. If it looks worse, then you're gonna have to play with it some more, but you know how to do that now. Okay? And if you just reset it, if you don't like it, just don't reset it, go right back to where it was. It won't take the change. But that's like me telling you how to set your resolution is like me telling you what your favorite color should be. You know what I'm saying? It's you got to use what's comfortable for you. So.
Okay. So is there a reason why isn't height the same size as the text box?
It's not going to be the same size because the size of this is there's a default size and partially it's predicated by what's in here. See how there's a lot more text in that?
Okay.
Mine's the same way.
Okay.
Has everybody had a chance to put in all the code? Okay, thank you for the head nod. More than I got from everybody else. So I'm taking for granted that you all have the code in there. All right? And we can come back to it, but I want to show you this if you look up on the screen here, because what I'm showing you right now is not that there, exactly what I just handed out to you. All right, so you've got hard copies of this. So, Lab 1, complete the Bootstrap 4 landing page shown below. You just did that. All right, the final product must completely match the example, though your days, hours, minutes, etc. will be different to receive full credit. So everyone who's got this done now should already have 100 points in the bank. Okay? All right, the second example. You are to basically, for lack of better words, to go through and do this. Now, what I'm going to do, when we get done with the JavaScript part of the class, when we get done with the HTML part of the class, before we go into JavaScript, I'm going to develop my own instructor evaluation thing, where you evaluate me. It'll be online, it'll be totally anonymous, and what I'll ask, I'll have like a grid system in there. I'll say, was this done? How was this done? So if you think, well, I'm learning a lot, but there's way too much homework, that's what you should write down. Okay? And if you say, there's certain things about me I can change. I'll tell you this is, again, not a joke, and you might find it funny. I don't know. But I had a person who had me at my old place of employment. They hated my voice. Well, how am I going to change that? I could talk like this, but or like this or whatever, but that would be pretty stupid. But they would write it down every semester. I hate his voice. Well, I'm sorry. So there's certain things I can change. All right? But if you think, well, if you put down in there, you're going way too fast. All right, then you have to put that down. But one of the reasons that I do go and tape these things is if I go through something too fast, that you have a chance to go back and watch them. And I go back and I check the views, and there's very few of you that have been watching the tapes, and that's okay. I'm going to keep doing it anyway. But I'm just telling you, if it's before a test, so if you have a test on a Monday and it's a hands-on test, then maybe if you're not sure of something, you may want to go back and look at on Sunday some of the tapes. Well, I don't have time to do that. No one has time to do anything that they really want to do. All right, but sometimes that's going to be, with some of you, might be the difference between a B and a C or an A and a B. All right, and I'm just telling you, because that's the way it is. Whether that's fair or not doesn't really matter. It's just the way that it is. All right, so for number 2, I've got the article that explains all this, but you create this. Okay? And if you say, why that? I don't know. This is the assignment that Evan came up with. I rewrote number 1. The one we just did, that's all mine. If you like that, that's good. It's all mine. If you hate that, that's bad, but it's all mine anyway. All right, just so you know, it's everything. He did this one, and he did the next one, where you create this. Neither one of those are working websites, but the idea is that you'll have a PSD file, which is a Photoshop source document file. All right. If you want to be able to look at a PSD document, please look up on the screen here. Again, this is all of the stuff I handed out to you this morning. So homework 2. There's the PSD document. Remember before when I told you how to download GIMP, G-I-M-P? You may or may not have done that, but let's say you did. So I'm going to open with, and notice by default it says, oh, do you want to open it with GIMP? Yes, I do. And it shows right here. This is a PSD. Normally they're not going to look this nice, but somebody has created this, for lack of better words, kind of took a picture of it, and then they said, I want you to build that for me as a website. That's what you're doing in number 2. All right? And in number 3, you're doing a similar thing. Now, GIMP is not nearly as good as a package, for example, like Dreamweaver. So for instance, what if Dominic says to me, you know what, I want to do this assignment, I want it to look exactly like this, and I can't for the life of me figure out what that color is. I can't get it to be perfect. There is a color picker that's in GIMP. It's hard to use. I'm not even going to show it to you because I screw it up whenever I try using it. But, all right, the example that the guy uses in here is he uses a product called Dreamweaver. It's good news, bad news. The good news is you can download a copy. The bad news is it's not free. Now, you can download a trial copy. I believe you can use it for about a month for free. All right? And if you want to do that, on page 2 of the handout that I just gave you, it's got Lab 2. And it says on here, so right here, on page 2, it says complete the hands-on tutorial, and I've got that file for you. It says, Note 1, the PSD file is provided. Note 2, in order to do this assignment, you may want to use GIMP or you may want to use Dreamweaver. So I give you the URL for GIMP if you didn't have it, and I give you the URL for Dreamweaver. All right. Number 3 is very similar to number 2. Okay? But instead of doing this example, I don't know if you have for number 3, if you have PSD for that. I guess you don't have the PSD for that one. But if you go out to the document, I believe that I think you can grab the PSD from there. All right, so you'll run through those. Now, the last one, okay? Rather than explaining to you, which is on the last 2 pages, okay, which are pages 4 and 5. Before going over those, I'm going to ask that you do this. Now, if what I'm about to ask you, if you're like, I don't sign up for a damn thing on the internet, then don't do it. It's going to be almost impossible for you to create this assignment if you don't do what I'm going to show you right now. Does that make sense? Now, I'm going to go and get into let me close all this stuff that I've got open here. So bring up your browser of choice. It doesn't matter what it is. All right? Even those of you who are IE people, it'll still work. And I want you to go out to a site that's called Udemy.com. Yours will not look like mine. Yours won't look like this. Okay? Mine will look like yours in just a minute. But I want you to go out. If you couldn't read that, or if you're like, how do you spell that again? Again, it's udemy.com. That's what I want you to go out to. You don't need the HTTP. You don't need any of those other goodies. All right? You just need to go out to there. And it should get you to their homepage. Anybody have any problems doing that? I said, no, mine will look like yours in a minute. I'm logged in. It automatically logs you in. And I've got to log out so mine looks like yours. All right? So I'm going to log out. Now, mine should look more like yours. It might not look exactly like it, and if it doesn't, don't worry about it. It's okay. All right? So, in fact, mine's under Business Udemy. There. All right. Now, and if it comes up and it says, what course will your life take? Just so you know, they've got courses. This is an online course factory. They've got courses and everything. And Amin says, even yoga? You can type in yoga, for example, and it'll show you courses that they have in yoga. Drew says, even how to manage my money, you type in money management. It has courses in literally thousands of different things. Okay? What I want you to do is, hopefully you all see this. Don't worry about the box that's in here. But in the upper right-hand corner where it says sign up, does everybody see that? All right? In the upper right-hand corner, you should have a thing when you put your mouse on it, it becomes a hyperlink, and click where it says sign up. All right? Now, I'd like you to sign up. So put your name in there, whatever you want to put in for your full name. You know, I just put in Jeff Scott there. I'd suggest for your email you use your Rankin email. You'll get notices from them, and you might get 1 or 2 a week. But the majority of the stuff, the notices that you'll get, well, some of their courses in here, you go, well, that's pretty expensive. They put what they call flash sales on their courses. I once got a $600 course for $10. All right, because all courses were $10 for like an hour. Okay? So put your name in there. Again, I'd recommend that you put in your Rankin email. If you don't want to put in your Rankin email and you've got a home email, I know some of you have been having problems with your Rankin email. That shouldn't at all be affected by this. But put in some email and a password. I recommend making the password simple, not like hi, but just making it, a few letters. All right, and whatever it is, writing it down if you're forgetful. All right, I don't have one here for my Rankin, so I'll put one in for me too, and I'm gonna put in Jeff Scott, JP Scott at rankin.edu, and I'll just put in, because it's such a, I want to tell you what I'm going to put in. Let's see, what will I put in? There, that's nice and short. All right, and then click sign up, and boom, you should be in. Now, yours is going to look similar to this. Again, it may not look exactly identical to this, okay? All right, let me show you. You don't have to do this. Let me show you what I did for this assignment, for part 4. I went out and I typed in this. PSD, the Photoshop document, free. All right, and I started to look. And literally, I don't know how many pages there were, but there were a lot of them. Okay? And even the order in which you do yours might not be the exact same as mine. And I don't know if I had to say PT, PSD, or PSD to HTML free. I don't remember what it was. But it was something like that. Eventually, when I look through here, you say, oh, that's not bad. It's 5 pages. No, it's like 15 pages worth of things. What I eventually found was a free one. See, Evan had you use a different one for his assignment that he wrote. The problem is that one doesn't exist anymore. So I had to go out and find something that was similar to it, but I didn't want you to have to pay anything. So the good news is that it's free. The bad news is now on your Rankin email, you will at least occasionally get emails from udemy.com. Okay? Tell you very quickly a quick little story about udemy.com. There is a guy, and just so you see this, for example, you'll eventually be able to do this. I'm going to go out to my courses. If you do now, there'll be nothing there because you don't have any courses yet. But if I look, I don't have any either because it's my Rankin account. But if I go out to one of my other accounts, I think I've got 250 on one and about 100 on the other. All right? I'd say the average price I paid for a course was $10. There were a lot of free ones, and there were ones I paid more than $10 for. All right? A couple summers ago, literally this summer, I guess it'll be 2 years ago, there's a guy I was taking courses from. He's in England, Rob Percival. He's a very intelligent guy, seems like a very nice guy. He sent out an email, and he said, I noticed this was to a lot of us. He said, I noticed you've taken one or more of my courses. Would you like to do a course with me? Okay? And I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. So one of the courses, I sent him back in my resume and a bunch of other stuff, and he said, oh, great, you know ASP.NET, which is the class that you're going to take a year from now. He said, I'd love to have you do an ASP.NET class with me. Okay? So I went in there. I was working at Blackhawk then, and this was during the summer. I started making tapes like I'm doing right now. Most of these Udemy tapes, most of them, average about 10 minutes long each lesson. They don't give it to you like I do, where you get an hour and then you take a break, etc. It's more like 10 minutes. His are anywhere from 10 to maybe 30 minutes, something like that. So I made about 10 of these tapes. Thought, this will give him a chance to see what I can do, etc. He didn't get back to me. Okay, so I did 10 more, then 10 more. Pretty soon I had done 77 tapes for him. Okay, some of these lessons have 200 or 300 for a course. Mine had 77. It was probably about 20 to 25% of the way done. Then he gets back to me and he says, "Love your content, but you don't sound like you have any emotion. I'd like you to redo all of them and talk like this and become like a disc jockey." Although he doesn't do that. He's English, but he's like, I'm not even going to do it in English, because if I did, my kids ever heard that, they would laugh. But he gets on there. He basically says, "Hello, this is Rob," and he's got no more emotion than I do. So I went and redid one, and he said, "Still not enough." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" So just for the hell of it, I did that. Use it like a disc jockey voice, and I did a whole thing like this. And he came back. That's what I'm looking for. And I thought, I can't do that. I don't have that in me to sit there and tape 100 hours of me talking like that. So I kind of told him that, and he goes, "Well, it's either that or we part ways." And that was fine. We parted ways. So all those tapes are actually out there, believe it or not, and I'll show you where you can get to them next semester, all right, or in fall semester. But they're all out there. The funny thing is, I went and listened to a couple courses after that of other people who had done courses with him. And there's one guy out there, and he says, "Okay, now we're going to get to this." And the whole thing is like that. He never changes his voice. And that was okay. But he didn't like mine. So my wife, who's always really just is always thinking of me. She goes, "Maybe he just thinks you're an ass." Okay? I said, "Okay, fine." When you've been married to somebody, it'll be 36 years next month. So, when you've been married to somebody that long, they talk to you whatever way they feel like talking to you. And maybe that was it. Maybe I just said or did something that turned him off. The point is, the guy who does the tape, the lesson that you're going to listen to, has got I think it's English, but it could be something else, but it's a slight accent. There are many people who do courses for them who are of Indian or some kind of a Middle Eastern dialect, and they're really smart people. Some of them are very hard to understand. All right? That's not fair to them. But it's funny, I was thinking of taking this class, and the guy, I was watching one of the intros, and the guy came on, he's typical Midwestern guy, less hair than I do, but a lot of these courses too, you'll see the person at the beginning and at the end of the class. All right, I don't do that kind of stuff, but again, and he said, "Now I'm going to turn off to my friend." It was like Ahmud, and it's like, he has a thick accent. And if it's hard for you to understand, but he said, listen to the content. It was so obvious the guy knew his stuff. But it was so hard to understand him. So I'm sure with a lot of those courses, that's what people do, is they listen to the person. They're like, "I could never listen to that for 50 or 60 hours. But when you're going through this, what you want to start doing is you want to start looking at the content that they have. All right. So from where you are right now, you should be able to open up a new browser window, and I'd like you to type in this. It's also what's on step 4 of page 4 of the handout. So I'll give you this, and I'll make it bigger in just a second. Did I type it correctly? Yes. No, I didn't. Darn it. PSD HTML5 CSS3 /learn. How about that? There we go. So if you can't read that or whatever from the book, I'll show it to you here also, and I'm going to make it. It's be way too big now, but I'll make it smaller. So in a new browser window, please go out to right there. That should be big enough that everybody can read it. If it looks like my background here, if it looks like this and it says free, that's where you want to be. So just stop right there. If you think you put that in, you have any problems, and it doesn't come up with this screen here, all right, then let me know. They literally have, Udemy literally has hundreds of free courses on all sorts of stuff. And you can pay up to, like I said, $500 or $600 for a course. Anybody who tried to go to this site that wasn't able to, you got an error or something just didn't work. All right. Then, again, you should be here. Okay, I'm going to let you hear the beginning of this, okay?
Hello and welcome to the Beginner's Photoshop 2 web
No, I
design
won't.
course.
You'll have to listen to it yourself because for some reason my speakers are screwed up. But I will tell you, the guy knows his stuff. That's the good news. The bad news is you've got to sit through the first part of it where he's got a young lady helping him and they try to be funny. All right, so he says, what is HTML? And she goes, well, I don't know. And he goes, it's hypertext markup language. This is no joke. She says, oh, I thought it was how to make love. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just going to be, this is going to stink. But it got so much better as it went on.
All right, okay, so we're going to be using Photoshop
And
today.
like I said, what he does, just so you see this, I'm going to, where are we? You can click the Start Learning Now button, the big green button, and go to course up here. All right? And then it'll go to the course. Now I want to quickly show you this, and then we're done for the period. But if you look up on the screen here, under course content right here, there's 3, 6, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21, 22. There are not 22 lessons in there. There are probably about 5 or 10. But a bunch of the stuff that's in here, is what I have saved for you under the Homework 4. Those are all the files that he references in here. So lesson 2 is not a lecture. Lesson 4 or 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 out of these 22 things in here are not lectures. See what I'm saying? And you've got all this. You can go download it yourselves if you want to, but you have it all. I didn't unzip anything, but you'll notice, for instance, PSD beginner dot the thing dot PSD. So open with, I'll open that with GIMP. This is what he teaches you in this course, is how to create this. I don't know, but I've got the feeling that there's at least one or more of you that in certain parts of this class may be struggling. Don't know. All right? There's no one in the class that's failing. There are people with C's, there are people with B's, there are people with A's. All right? Right now, but no one is failing. That's always a good thing. All right? But he explains, this is a Photoshop document in here. And he explains how you use different things, and that's not what's important. But he goes through the entire concept, for lack of better words, on how to create a simple web page. Much of it will probably be review. And you're like, geez, we went over this. We went over a lot of this stuff real early in the semester, type of an idea. Okay? But I want you to see this. This is his final website. And it's all out there. Everything I'm showing you, you don't have to write any of this down because it's literally all out there. So I'm going to come over to here. All right, his name is Carl Heaton. Okay, and you'll notice there's his home page. There's not a lot in it. There's an about page. There is a services page. There's a portfolio page. There's a contact page. All right, that's, for lack of better words, you're going to now be creating your own. This is going to change from what you've done previously. This is, in other words, this site that you create now is one that you would be showing to a prospective employer. Does that make sense? In other words, and I'm not saying this to be mean, funny, or anything else. I don't want to see pictures of your kids in it. I don't want to see pictures of your car in it. I don't want to see pictures of whatever in it. This is stuff that you would be showing a potential employer. So you can use this as a basis if you want to start. But if you look under the actual assignment, what you're doing for this assignment, it says the PSD of the author's site is shown on the next page. Look familiar? That's what I just showed you. All right. So it says go to Udemy, do all this stuff. You've done every bit of this now. You've done those 6 steps. So you've already got that done. So how is this going to be graded? Again, I tried to use what a rubric means how you're going to grade something. And I tried to use Evan's rubric. So the way that you're going to be graded, and I mean Evan Gudness did, not yours, although I'm sure that'd be fine too. But it says, again, notice the website should look professional grade. You know where I got the professional grade from? Anybody know? I don't know where they put it, but that's their new tagline for Rankin. Okay, we all got shirts that we had to wear for our first day of in-service. They were the Rankin red, and they said on the front, I think it said Rankin Technical College. I think that's what it said. And on the back, it said professional grade. Because the idea is you're leaving here and you're ready to go out and become professionals. So, in other words, I don't want, just because you think Comic Sans is a really cute little font, don't care. It's not what you do on a professional website that you'd be creating to show somebody. Does that make sense? But you now know how to get to Google Fonts. You've got over 1,000 of them in there. I'm sure you can find something that looks professional and that you like. All right? You know, I'm originally from Milwaukee. I grew up a Packer fan. I'll always be a Packer fan. Now, but I still would not create a website that was green and gold, because that probably wouldn't look very professional. All right? So, font sizes, colors, margins, and padding should be done well. Look through it and see if you've got to use any positioning, relative or absolute, etc. Line spacing, stuff shouldn't look too slammed together, yet it shouldn't look too torn apart. All right? And I'm going to tell you something. What I'm going to tell you right now, my wife would say, so you lied to them. Okay, we're splitting hairs. I did not grade any tests, but I looked at everybody's. You're glad I didn't grade the tests. Okay? Very few of you actually did what was asked on the assignment. I'm not going to say so-and-so did, and so, because that'll imply that the other ones didn't. What I want to do, and I talked to Charles about this morning. Charles said, well, what kind of prep did you give him? Was it in the book? I said, no. But I took them out to the website. I emailed them a bunch of stuff. I have done literally probably about 50 presentations on Bootstrap, and I showed them where those were. And at least one of you, and you know who you are, I don't remember if the person's in here or not, but emailed me last night and said, yeah, I went back and looked at some of the stuff that you had emailed us, and I wish I'd done that earlier. Well, you didn't. How's that? All right. So what I want to do is I want to take the test, and instead of making that test you just took worth 100 points, I told Charles I'm going to make it worth 25. Okay? And the average grade is going to be a 10. So you know, that's not passing. But you only lost 15 points if you got a 10. Make sense? I think the highest grade is going to be about a 15. Okay? And what I want to do then is, and I'm not sure when this will be due, because I don't want to give you so much that you can't get stuff done. But this one that you're creating, this professional one, I also want you to redo it as a Bootstrap document. You see what I'm saying? So you'll have it where you did it as a regular website, and then you'll add the Bootstrap stuff to it. If you do that, you can get up to a maximum of 100 additional points. If you don't do it, then the only grade you're going to have for this part of it is going to be that 10 of 25 or 5 of 2 or whatever. Does that make sense? I'm trying to do it and be as fair to you as I possibly can, because many of you have been doing well on everything, and you kind of hit a roadblock here, but this is the first time that you really didn't have something exactly in the book to fall back on. I can appreciate that. I can already tell you too, what some of you did on the test was you went out and you Googled Bootstrap themes. And you thought, well, that looks pretty good. And basically you tried to grab that theme, and in 4 hours you try to take your stuff and throw it into that theme. Sometimes it worked, and sometimes it was a cluster. And cluster has something that comes after it that I won't add, all right? But it really looked like basically like you just kind of splatted a bunch of stuff out there. And some of you that I think struggled were trying to actually just figure out how to even incorporate it, had almost nothing, all right? So you'll get something if you made an attempt, and everybody made an attempt. Some people did better than others did. So if you want the possibility for 100 extra points, all right, then you can do that, okay? Now, the only fair way to do that, though, is it's going to be worth 100 points. So let's say that Eric does it, and he gets it 3/4 done, and what he's done is really good. He'll get 75 points, but it'll be 75 out of 100. Does that make sense? Because that's really the only way that I can think of that I can do this, based on the way that they make me grade things in here. All right? So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And if you want to do it, it's a chance for you to recoup most of those points. So let's say that you got 10 out of 25. Let's just say that's what you did. And you go back now and you do assignment 4, which is not a Bootstrap one. But then you do what I just mentioned to you, so you redo it in Bootstrap. And it's great. Now you'll get 110 points out of 125 points. See what I'm saying? If everything was good. And I don't know what that boils down to, but I know it's passing. You know, it's probably about a 90 or something like that. So whether or not you do that is up to you. All right? So the rest of the period today, the last 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes, is lab. Tomorrow, if we look, so today was complete all labs for Chapter 10, including lab handout PSD to HTML conversion. Notice due on day 25. We're in day 20. So the assignment that we have right here, this one, according to this, is actually due the 28th, which is a week from today. All right? And you know what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to actually, I'm not going to change it. I'll try to keep saying this, but instead of making it due there, I'm going to make it due a week from Friday. All right? So you will have that much time to work on it. Okay? Again, I would strongly suggest, because I can tell that some people didn't do this, that when you get in, not the assignment so much, but especially for when you take your next test, read the whole test. All right? What I typically do is, if I'm doing an assessment like this, I'll read through everything, and I'll put like a little check mark by stuff I know how to do. But then I'll map that up, because if the assessment says this is worth 15 points, and everything else on there is worth 2 points, I want to make sure I get that thing worth 15 points done. In other words, I want to hit the high ticket items, so to speak. But if there's a bunch of stuff that's worth a point, and there's 10 of those, I'll do those last. Because some people, I think, concentrated so much going from the top down and getting the first stuff done that they didn't get other stuff done that came after it. All right. So tomorrow, which will be the 22nd, I guess. All right. Lab. And what we will do tomorrow at 11:30. Is there anybody in the room right now that does not have a copy of that Chapter 10 review? The test review sheet that I gave you? It should be 1 page front and back. Let me know. Not this second, but just let me know. If you don't have one, I'll print out more, okay? But we're going to go through that tomorrow at 11:30. So you come in here tomorrow, you're here by 8:05. You get 3 hours and 25 minutes. Ideally, you're going to make some strong headway into the assignment. Then Friday, we'll take our written test, first thing. Then we'll go through Chapter 11. My guess is, again, the written test, most people have been taking a half an hour, about a half an hour. Usually by 8:30, everybody's done. If everybody's done, Then by about 9:30, we'll be done with a lecture on Chapter 11. So you'll have 2 hours, so you'll have 3.5 hours tomorrow, 2 hours on Friday. So that's 5.5 hours. Then we go into next week. Notice, lab day. All right. If you want, we can do the next path of light. If you say, no, I don't really want to, then we won't do it. I'll just give it to you. That's okay. Let's say that that's what you decide. That means you'll have 3 hours and 50 minutes on what? Monday and on Tuesday of next week. So that's 7 hours. So we're already talking about you having 12.5 hours in class. We've already got one of these 4 problems done. So that means that you're going to have an average of 4 hours in each class, all right, or 4 hours to work on each assignment. That's not even including any time you might need outside of class. The reason I'm telling you all that stuff is I expect what you turn in for your portfolio to be not good, but to be damn good. All right, I'm going to grade this probably more harshly than I've graded anything for the entire semester. And if you say, well, why? Because technically, the final that you're supposed to do at the end of the semester, this is pretty much it. So you're going to be tweaking it at the end. But the idea is after a semester, Amin goes home and he sees this ad in the paper and he said, you know, I could do this. They're just looking for some part-time help for a couple hours on the weekend or whatever. I think I could do this. Now he's got something, he's got an electronic portfolio that he's going to be able to show them. Does that make sense? That's the idea behind this. When we get done with the HTML portion of the class and we go to the JavaScript, HTML doesn't stop. You'll still have HTML, you'll still have CSS, but we'll add the JavaScript component to it, and what that will do is it'll provide interactivity. All right? So when you get done with that, ideally, I'm not saying you could step in tomorrow after you take this class and become a web developer, but you'd at least have the skills that a beginning web developer would have. All right? So again, like we said, and then the written test, you'll have a written test for 11 on a week from today, and then notice that hands-on one, we're going to push that off too. I'm not going to give you a hands-on test the same day that I give you a written test. I'm not going to do that. And Evan sometimes he'll email me and he'll go, Jeff, how come these grades aren't in for this? Because I haven't given it yet, Evan, but I'm not going to tell you that. Because he runs things a certain way and I do. All right? And I will tell him, I'm going to see him next week. I've got to go down to St. Louis. We've got an advisory committee meeting, and I'm going to tell him what I'm doing. All right? He might not like all of it, but I don't like everything that he's doing. All right? So, that's just what makes it a world. And so by the end of next week, what we'll have left really will be what? Pretty much, I think this is next week also. So by the end of next week, we'll have only chapters 13 and 14 to go. And 14 I'm going to lecture on, but in like a half an hour. That's JavaScript. That's the intro to it. And 13 is on web promotion. It's another one of those chapters that says, now that you've got your site, this is how you promote it, type of an idea. But when you look, I believe after next week, and again, I could be wrong. Yeah, I guess he does give you one on chapter 13. But notice here, this thing right here. Midterm, etc. That's all basically on you creating a portfolio. So you'll be taking what you have and adding the skills that you've acquired since that assignment was due to really polish it and make it look successful. All right? Questions on any of that? All right, because that's all that I had.